It's the Sports Peninsula podcast coming up. The Detroit Lions delivered a fourth straight victory, improving to 5-1 on the season as they handled the tough Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20-6. That's 15 straight games with 20 or more points scored for the Lions. Next, the Lions travel to Baltimore and take on the tough Ravens led by Lamar Jackson. We'll talk about the win, the upcoming game in Baltimore, and what makes this team special. Now here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Brzezinski. Drew. It's a Victory Tuesday, October 17th, and the Detroit Lions are 5-1 on a 4-game winning streak. They just beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20-6 at Raymond James Stadium, even with the creamsicle uniforms, which is impressive. That's a good Tampa Bay team over there. We're going to talk about that in depth with Coach Andy Shield, the Marine City Mariners. Coach, how you doing?
Doing well, Drew. Doing well. 5-1. Atop the NFL power rankings. A whole different kind of buzz going on in national media. Are the Lions NFC contenders? Are Lions NFC front runners? Viral video on all social media platforms of Lions fans taking over Raymond James Stadium at times in Tampa and having a victorious departure from the venue about 7:30 last Sunday night. This is fun. This is a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Also to talk about is Detroit's finest, Justin Merriquin. Justin, how you doing?
Pretty fired up. 5-1, like Coach said. Atop the NFL world, as it seems like. Any channel you turn on, ESPN, NFL Network. Your local, stations, radio stations, everyone's talking Lions football, buzzing. Celebrities are even, buying into the hype, drinking the Kool-Aid per se. I think we're all drinking a big old glass of it. I know I am. So just looking ahead to, this Sunday.
That Kool-Aid tastes good, whether it's on the rocks or it's neat. Doesn't matter. Goes down smooth. Before we jump into it, guys, I mentioned in the intro, we wanted to talk about how special this is. And this really has had a special feel, even at the end of last year, through the offseason, through the draft, through free agency. You just had that feeling. And then, even though there was the setback in week 2, this team has just gotten better every single week. 15 straight games of 20 or more points. I mean, and that's all well and good, but it doesn't matter without a W. But I mean, they're 13-3 in their last 16 games. Coach, we go back a little further in Justin. We've never seen that. We've never seen that. So it's good.
We've never seen the statistics that count be in the Lions' favor, wins and losses,
and that's what matters.
To that tune. 1991, we were 12-4. We won 11-5, and what was it? 2014. 14.
Oh, yeah, 2014. Yes, you're right.
2 years.
Yeah.
The last 50-55. I mean, no one can talk like that. No one can talk to that kind of futility. Yeah. So, I mean, this smacks you in the mouth in a good way. But it's like and to say that we've arrived, not yet. Gotta get that playoff victory.
And Justin, I love that the national media is talking about him. I do. I like it as a fan. But I'll tell you what, man, you don't hang banners at the 1/3 mark, right? There's no banners up there for that.
No.
We've seen this line. We've seen Lions teams in the past have go on hot streaks and cold streaks. I'm not comparing them. That's not enough of that. But talk about how this feels to you though, and what you're seeing now.
Yeah, like you just said, it's great. 5-1. We're being talked about being a contender. Not only for the NFC but Super Bowl. Might I add? But not to be negative, but it just makes me think a little bit back in recent years. Remember when John Kitna was our quarterback? They started off hot 6-0, and I remember it was Halloween night, and I was at my parents' house passing candy out. ESPN was talking about them, had all these graphics up. Are they for real and blah blah blah. And then everyone bought into the hype then, and then they just completely fell apart. Now I don't think it's gonna be like that, but I don't know how to feel right now. I'm happy. I'm very proud of this football team, but even watching these games is just like it's nerve wracking, especially towards the end when we know you're gonna win the game. The Lions gonna win the game, but still you're double checking like did they win? Are there any flags on the field? Like what's going on? And now you're starting to see that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and company, Chris Spielman have put together a formidable team that gets the job done on both sides of the football. And this is what a real NFL team does, a contending NFL team does, takes care of business. And boy, does that feel good. It makes you feel proud of this football team. So it's very exciting, an exciting time right now.
It is. I think, honestly, in my personal opinion, I think Hard Knocks did wonders for this team. I don't before Hard Knocks, the national media and most fans in the country really didn't give two whats about the Lions or Detroit. I'm just being honest. And Hard Knocks it's compelling TV, but that they did a really nice job with the Lions. And let's face it, that staff led by Dan Campbell, that's a special group right there. And they've had Jim Caldwell was a good coach. They've had good coaches. Jim Schwartz was a good coach. They've had guys that could lead, but I mean, this staff as a whole is just, it's loaded with NFL talent, loaded. They're getting the most out of these guys and everyone's buying in. And after Hard Knocks and then catching fire last half of the season, they've become the darlings of the NFL, quite frankly. And the Lions have never been that. Even with Barry Sanders, he was special, but they still wanted to take Thanksgiving away from Detroit, right? I don't think they want to do that now at all.
Yeah,
but
they still did up until probably now. Why does Detroit have the Thanksgiving game?
Take it from us, right?
Exactly.
I say us, it's not. I'm not on the team, but anyways, let's get to it, guys. Special game, 20-6 victory over the Buccaneers. Coach, let's talk about Jared Goff. His stat lines have been the last 3 weeks have been pretty consistent, like 20 for 28, 20 for 29, about 230, 250 yards, couple TDs. Pretty solid, man. Jared Goff, and he got the game ball. Coach Campbell said he put him on the shoulders, and he had a special game. Talk about Jared Goff.
Yeah, Drew, last Sunday was Exhibit A for extension because quite honestly, when we lost Dave Montgomery, and we've lost him now for at least a little bit of time with a cartilage issue in his ribs, Jared Goff, in effect, had to carry the team from a standpoint of gaining substantive yards and was able to do that. He was able to get the third down conversions. He was able to convert, on plays in which we would get 20 yards or more, flipping field position, allowing our run game to finish off a series of plays or a series of downs rather than be the lead horse with the pass being the accent. We had to be a pass first team there towards the end, and really the whole second half. And there you see it, 30 for 44, outstanding completion percentage. 44 attempts is a higher total than what we had been seeing lately from Jared Goff. 353, that's pretty impressive. And again, like I said, he carried the load, and we were able to gain our yardage through the air based off of, really some beautiful throws by Jared Goff. Very accurate. Very, very accurate. Not maybe, he didn't hit on every single one of them. He missed a couple too, but 353, 2 touchdowns, and the biggest statistic of them all. You can talk your 107.5 quarterback rating all you want. 0 interceptions. 0 interceptions. We could have had 150 yards passing. We had 0 interceptions. Jared Goff didn't hurt the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff led the Detroit Lions last Sunday.
Yeah, and talk about that, Justin. This team has been so balanced on offense. They've been so good on offense, and this was arguably the best defense they've faced. As a matter of fact, I won't say it's an argument. This was the best defense they've faced all year, and Tampa Bay played really well. But talk about Jared Goff being able to still make it happen in the air like that.
Well, I think you have to bring it all the way back to when Holmes, signed or traded for him. We traded Stafford and we got Jared Goff in return. I think he even knew, back then, I know my guy, I was in LA with him. Speaking of Brad Holmes, I know he can get the job done. And now we're seeing that. It seems like each game there's something going on. We lose a player, defensively, offensively, someone else, steps in or someone else steps up. Well, in this game, like Coach alluded to, Dave Montgomery went down. That was our bell cow, and our yardage gainer. He's erased from the game. Who's going to step up? Goff's like, I will. I'm going to make the throws. I'm going to get us, to victory, and that he did. So to me, he's a complete leader. This is what you want as an NFL quarterback. This is who you want to be in the huddle with, and that's who you want throwing passes to you, man. Because he was awesome all game. He never let up.
I'll tell you what, guys. I mean, we've said this before, and I think we've all admitted we didn't really see Jared Goff as the long-term answer. I'm gonna say it right now on record. I was wrong. I was so wrong about this guy. I didn't think he was bad, but I just was not excited about getting him, and I figured he was just the bridge to the next guy. Coach, you hit it, man. You got to start talking extension. He's only 28. It's not like this guy's, nearing Miguel Cabrera getting the send offs. No, he's got a lot of football left in him. You might want to strike while the iron's hot. And I know Brad Holmes already said they were talking extension in the preseason. Yeah, they need to start talking about it and that's no knock on Hendon Hook or anything, but let's give it a rest about looking for the future guy. We got the guy right here. This team rallies around him. You see it in the locker room. You see it on the field. That's their guy. This team respects him. He's playing lights out. We can talk about a lot of let's face it, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, they're great players. I mean, they are. Tua's having a great year. Let's hope he stays healthy. Hopefully this is the first year he's able to do that. He's having a great year. He's in that conversation. You look at every statistical category, he's there. He's in the mix. But again, like you said, Coach, doesn't matter. All that matters is the INTs. None. He's only thrown, I think, 3 on the year, I believe. So in 6 games, outstanding work by Jared Goff. And guys, we talked about it, right? We lost David Montgomery, the Lions did. He only had 6 carries for 14 yards, and he fell on the football. And Coach, I was hoping against hope, and maybe just not the wind out of himself. That happens a lot. Cartilage injury, that's very painful. I mean, it's not a cracked rib, it's not broken, but when it's in essence, it's like a displacement of a rib. That's very painful, especially as a running back. Kind of talk about that injury a little bit and what you see the Lions doing. I know they sent Mo Abraham to the practice squad, which is good, but talk about your thoughts on Montgomery's injury.
Yeah, it's tough because he's a very physical style runner and just a physical player in general. So, I mean, engaging himself, really, delivering blows with his body, taking on shots in the rib cage and through his torso, twisting and turning. These are things that, David Montgomery makes a living doing those by. So that's tough. That's tough. And you know what? We need to get him recuperated. We need David Montgomery running at 100% or, 85 to 100%. That's where we need Dave Montgomery to be. So, Godspeed and recovery, David. We need you back, my friend. But let's look at what we do have, and that is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, who will be coming back here. We're hoping that's this week.
Good. Yeah.
He's explosive, different style runner. Craig Reynolds probably is a bit more of the David Montgomery style runner. And we'll get to Craig here in a second, but we got Jahmyr Gibbs back. We've got a potential explosive playmaker in there. And to be quite honest, we're waiting for Jahmyr to really make his pop yet. There have been a few rookie running backs that were drafted much further behind, Jahmyr that have, made their little statement thus far. They're also on the injured reserve now already, but that's what and I think this is what we're seeing with this position group and why it may not be invested in quite the same way as it once was. is because the injury toll that it just takes. I mean, these guys just get really racked with injuries. And but we got Jahmyr Gibbs coming back. We have Craig Reynolds, who's a very physical player. We can see that there may be a little bit of a stop back and a little bit of the power, a little bit of the speed, but super physical. I mean, that block he threw on the Amon-Ra touchdown that was just a great football play. So Craig Reynolds will impact our game in other ways too, whether his blocking ability. And we saw back in Carolina, he carried the torch there on the last touchdown drive. So we know Craig Reynolds can move the football with it being carried. So between Jahmyr Gibbs and Craig Reynolds, I think we'll make a good college try of things down in Baltimore. But Mo Abraham just was signed to the practice squad. We've got Divine Ozigbo that is up. So we're going to kind of keep things going. I know there's a lot of people clamoring for Leonard Fournette, and who knows, that may be in the works. I'm not saying that it isn't, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. But we can't be just throwing names out there and throwing money at that, just thinking because we're challenging for the Super Bowl. Again, we're a crafted roster. We want to make sure we do things right. And if Dave Montgomery can be back in, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks, well, let's just take it easy and let's let Divine Ozigbo, potentially Mo Abraham, and then, of course, Craig Reynolds and Jahmyr Gibbs take us home.
Yeah, well said, Coach. And Justin, doesn't get any easier next week against Baltimore, running against a tough Baltimore defense. It's always tough. Your thoughts on that offensive line and how they're going to be instrumental in keeping this running game going, because they're going to have at least the threat of the run, and I'm sure they will, because with Jahmyr Gibbs in there, he's very dangerous. But your thoughts on the plan for next week with that running game?
Yeah, let's face it, in the National Football League, you have to run the football in order to win games. I mean, we can't ask Jared Goff to be passing 40-plus, attempts from here on out because, we're missing our main guy, Montgomery. So they're going to have to get pretty crafty. It's going to get ugly in the trenches because the Baltimore Ravens, they are stingy on defense. Teams are only 30% successful, to make the first down. The defense the Baltimore Ravens only giving up 15 points a game. And a stat that really stood out to me, they've only given up 6 touchdowns all season so far. So, that line, I'm sure Ben Johnson's going to get crafty with it. There's going to have to be, between the tackle runs, but, maybe we can get some toss plays in there, some sweeps and whatnot. I would anticipate seeing some screen passes, some swing passes. What you have to do with that defense, you have to spread them out. They're so good. They're very aggressive too. You will see some blitzes, probably a lot of blitzes, probably 0 blitzes as well. They love to just, throw everything but the kitchen sink, and sometimes the kitchen sink at the offensive line. So they're really going to have to be on their toes. They're really going to have to be, communicative effort. Playing in Baltimore, that's a tough atmosphere, to play in. So I think if we just get that defense a little bit on their heels, kind of get them off and just guessing a little bit and quiet that blitzing down, because if they get locked in with that blitzing scheme, it's going to be a long day for us because we cannot have Jared Goff throwing the football a bunch. We have, at some point, we got to run.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw Tampa blitz a lot. Jared Goff did get sacked 3 times. He was under the line held up pretty well overall, but nonetheless, when you're that good and that aggressive, you're going to get yours. And it's all the more impressive what Jared Goff was able to do on Sunday. But here's one of the reasons why they're going to be able to spread that field, Coach. Amon-Ra St. Brown comes back, and Lions won last week. It's great, next man up, but man, it's good to have number 14 back in the lineup, isn't it?
Look at that stat line. I mean, that's something that's very Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, we have not seen. Okay, we've seen Calvin put up double-digit catches and huge yardage before. He has, but I mean, that's really not since then have we seen that. And it seems like that's a thing for Amon-Ra to get into those double-digit catches, a lot. And wow, that was the difference maker there. That was the bell cow on Sunday. And yes, that it's going to be incumbent upon Ben Johnson. And I know it seems like maybe we put a little pressure on him at times. I know I feel like I do that a little bit, especially if the offense stalls a little bit or what appears to stall. The guys did a marvelous job of being able to craft ways in which Amon-Ra St. Brown can touch the football through the air. We're not talking about doing, a lot of reverses and, jet sweep stuff, although he's hit on jet sweeps before. Amon-Ra, he's able to get him at least in some open shots and contested shots that are high percentage contested shots. And Amon-Ra was plucking them on Sunday, baby. He really was reeling them in. And, hopefully, many more to come. We need Amon-Ra big time to be able to produce like this. The 12 catches, 124 yards, that's a lot to ask for on a weekly basis, but definitely the 6 to 8 range, I think, is the norm for him.
Yeah, absolutely. 70 to 80 yards. Absolutely. I mean, that's as consistent as heck. And then he'll have games like this, of course. And I'm sure Justin, Coach, and I will be breaking down that touchdown he had, because that was rather unconventional. The way he basically ran from one end of the field to the other, and then Craig Reynolds sprung that massive block to free him up and get him in the end zone. But just talk about your thoughts on the St. Brown's performance on Sunday.
Coach said it all. I mean, this is our guy. If all else fails, who's automatic? It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I wouldn't be shocked, and this might be, a crazy take. I wouldn't be shocked if he lines up in the backfield at some point, not, for a few plays, maybe just one or two. But Ben Johnson has been creative before. I believe if you can go back, was his rookie season against Seattle, he played running back, a little bit in that game. So he has that capability, and it throws another look at the defense that, 14's in the backfield. What the heck? So I believe he's paramount to our offense. If he goes, we go. If he's, sputtering a little bit, it's going to be a long day for us, because this is our guy that, makes the chains move. He gets down the field. He gets, those tough yards. And like you said, he runs all over the field. I mean, that touchdown, with Craig Reynolds in tow coming out of nowhere, jumping off my screen, hitting that guy. I mean, that's incredible. But when you get him going like that, I mean, the sky is the limit, or actually there is no limit when you have Amon-Ra, given space and doing stuff like that. I mean, it's unpredictable for the defense that we're facing. So I can't say enough about him, man. He does everything well. I love the way he plays the game.
Yeah, definitely well said, Justin. And Coach, here's a guy who did some good things. Jameson Williams. We've been waiting, and we got to see a little bit of it. And it wasn't pretty, but it was very impressive what he did on that touchdown. Talk about what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, he's still kind of a splash player at this point, kind of an accent piece. J-Mo is still kind of figuring some things out. But it's pretty obvious that this team is really, really wanting to rally around him. They like, his young presence out there. And, J-Mo does produce. There's times where it's like, you see him juggle, a simple little play. It's just a secure little play, 4, 5, 6 yard gain, and he'll drop it. Or, this kind of looks light out there. There was a ball that, yes, Jared Goff threw. He underthrew a little bit. He didn't quite get as much on it. His mechanics may have been a little bit off because of a rush, but J-Mo didn't come back to it at all. And just simple things that you would expect. But I mean, the play scheme was nothing crazy. It just was an uber athlete getting to the top of the route system way before anybody else, and getting himself open. He just went over the top.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
all that was. That's all that was. That's all that, the layman fan just kind of clamors over and think is how passing works. Well, it really doesn't work that way unless you have some elite, missile like Jameson Williams that you can put out there just to beat people over the top, and have Goff, get enough air on it this time to get it in there. And I tell you what, it's a heck of a weapon. it's a heck of a weapon. It can really be some smelling salts for the team when they need it. And it certainly was kind of a dagger, really, in many ways. That score was for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. And Justin, as Williams gets more established in this offense, and of course there's St. Brown, and of course there's Reynolds, and of course there's Raymond, and oh my goodness, you've got to account for all those guys, and that just is going to make the running game that much better, which has been great to this point. I mean, obviously it was tough going Sunday, but it doesn't help when Montgomery and Gibbs are both out. But talk about your thoughts on, if you're a defense, how are you going to put 7 or 8 in the box when you've got to contend with this receiving core and Jared Goff?
Well, and Coach said it too, how passing works in the NFL, you just don't see that stuff, like what we saw with that touchdown catch, unless you have like a Tyreek Hill with Tua, down in Miami, or, some of these other, speedsters, like Brandon Cooks too, Dallas Cowboys. These guys can stretch the field, and so does Jameson. So what we're going to have to do is, create, kind of plays where he can just fly. And like Coach said, he gets on the top of the route, meaning his top end speed. I mean, it's up there. It is Tyreek Hill level type of speed. So they're going to have to account for him. Otherwise, he's going to be running free down the sideline. So if we can just get that factor in there, that little X factor in the game, that could be another thing that throws off the Baltimore defense. But taking a step back a little bit as a Lions fan, you're going to have to live and die with Jameson Williams and his inconsistencies right now. Listen, he hasn't played a full season, coming off, injury, having to sit out with the gambling issues and whatnot, but still you look at his stat line, he's had 2 touchdowns, going even back to last year, and those are 40 plus yards. I'll take that all day. Yes, like Coach alluded to, he dropped a pass that, he should have caught, like Amon-Ra says in Khalif Raymond, if you touch it, you catch it. That's the old wide receiver moniker in the National Football League. Jerry Rice lived and died by that statement. But we're going to have to live with that. There are going to be some drops. There are going to be, some oopsies along the way. But what he can do to overcome that, you saw that Sunday. And we saw it last year against Minnesota. So just know that can come at any moment. That doesn't happen on any NFL team or every NFL team. It can happen on ours.
Yeah, he is a special talent, no question about it. Sam Laporta, he was pretty consistent. Nothing fancy this week, but a lot of good blocking. Was able to catch 4 balls, guys. I mean, Sam Laporta is a big part of this. Sam Laporta has been one of the best tight ends in football this year. And they're going to be facing another one in Mark Andrews on Sunday. But Coach, talk about Sam Laporta real quick and what he's meant to this team.
Yeah, he and he's going to be another piece that Ben Johnson's going to game plan for a little bit. He showed an affinity for that, and has shown an affinity for that with Jared Goff in throwing to the tight ends, getting the tight ends open on like zero routes and real tight crossers and outs and kind of bucking the trend with motion and getting the ball and finding ways to get the ball into the tight end's hands. Sam Laporta's made some huge plays in some games. In some games, he's been a little bit more pedestrian. But one thing's for certain, Sam Laporta blocks, and Sam Laporta competes for his catches. And I would expect Sam Laporta may be a little bit more involved this time around. It's going to be kind of dependent upon how we're able to kind of stave off any kind of, pressure from the Baltimore Ravens. But I would expect Sam Laporta to be targeted maybe a little bit more this week, just because I think they'll probably do some numbers and try to limit Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Josh Reynolds a little bit on some of his stretch plays, which could make, for good things for Sam. But when Sam Laporta does well, so do the Detroit Lions. So let's have old number 87. Oh, not old. He's new. He's young number 87. Flourish for us on Sunday.
Yeah, and you touched on another name, Justin. Talk about Josh Reynolds. If I'm not mistaken, guys, I believe still Oh no, actually, his last catch, he didn't get a first down. Until his last catch of the Tampa game, every catch he's made this year has been a touchdown or a first down. Talk about Josh Reynolds and what he's meant to this team.
I mean, did we not talk about that last week about how special he is, where he just has a nose for that first down, or if Jared Goff needs, a big production play, he'll find Josh Reynolds, and he seems to, not only catch the ball, but go with it too. I mean, he did that down in Tampa Bay on Sunday afternoon, catching the football, finding the sticks, going beyond the sticks, twisting and turning like we talked about last week. He has good football IQ awareness on the field, where he's at, where the ball is, where the defenders are at. So this is another weapon that you have that, hopefully, the Ravens can forget about, quote unquote, on some plays, this coming Sunday, where, he can make, those big plays, first downs, and possibly touchdown. So, and he's a big body too, he's so good with ball control, and he goes up and gets it. He fights for the football, and then he not only fights for the first down, he fights for more yards. He's not just satisfied, he wants to, break away and go all the way to the sticks. So he's another big part of this offense. I expect him to be a big part of the game plan on Sunday. So, this is another guy that, could, like Coach alluded to with Jameson, being a dagger for the Baltimore Ravens if you forget about this guy.
So many weapons. Here's another one, Coach Khalif Raymond. He had 3 more catches. And it's funny, he catches 3 or 4 balls a game. He's been very good on punt returns this year, but it's like he makes key catches. It's like when the chips are down and they've got to get a play, Khalif Raymond's coming up with it for him. His impact on this team, Coach, in your view?
Oh, and he's kind of a Swiss Army knife offensively. I mean, he's a good blocker. They motion and do a lot of different things with him. He can be a kid or a guy that takes it in the reverse and does some of the reverse action stuff, and some of the mix and match. He's very much involved in special teams. Very much a glue guy, a great competitor, a tough football player. Just does a lot of things that really, I think we can get a little wrapped up sometimes into the nuances of how does this guy carry the ball? What kind of a running back is he? What, this receiver, and beating people over the top and having top end speed and being downfield threats and those kinds of things. Sometimes football players, and the best football players, are guys that don't touch the ball all that often or touch it rather infrequently. Sometimes these are guys that are not out there on first down all the time. They're mixed and matched. Khalif Raymond is a starter for the Detroit Lions. He really, is a default starter. If you have 3 receivers on the field, he's typically one of them. Or oftentimes is one of them. But he's just a real huge leader on this team. And, our identity, even though Khalif Raymond may not rack up, 3-digit, receptions, or be 1,000-yard guy, or somebody that gets towards 10 TDs, that's probably not going to be Khalif Raymond. He's not going to be a guy that's going to be a big stat column producer, but he is certainly a leader of this team.
Guys, you're right about that, Coach. And Justin, let's talk about that O-line before we jump to the other side of the football. And once again, the best unit in football, this offensive line for the Detroit Lions. And it all comes down to, Penei Sewell and Frank Ragnow are so key. Taylor Decker's so important, but Decker's missed some time. Jackson didn't play last game. Graham Glasgow comes in, sign him as a free agent. Big V goes down after week 1, and Glasgow's playing out lights out. Talk about the offensive line before we jump to that defensive side of football, because they deserve all the credit in the world.
Yeah, the reason why we're 5-1 is because of that offensive line. Each and one of those men and the backups, they all deserve a pat on the back and much more. You've seen Penei Sewell, a very young guy. I believe he's only 22 years old, and he's a leader on that football team. Frank Ragnow, our center, I can't say enough about the guy. Guy is just a gritty player, makes this offensive go, makes sure everyone is in sync on the offensive line. Graham Glasgow, I've said it before, he's basically like a coach on the field. You're getting a coach and a player that's on the field at the same time. So, you have Decker that's playing through injury. He's hurt out there, but, he loves his team. And that's what all these guys do, especially the big guys up front, man. So our 5-1 success, the heart and soul of this team is the offensive line. I love the guys, and credit to Coach, Hank Fraley, man. He's one hell of a coach and just coaches these guys up, man. And one guy goes down, another guy, steps up, fills their spot. It's just incredible. And Vaitai was available, Sunday, but, didn't use him. Get him a little bit more rest. I love that. I love that. Make the other guys, go in there, fight, compete, and play their ass off, and that they did.
Yeah, it's a huge. I was surprised personally. I just assumed they would move Glasgow over to left guard and put Big D in a right guard, and they didn't go that direction. And coach, the results were still there. I mean, it's to win by 2 touchdowns on the road against a tough Tampa Bay team. Very impressive. I thought it'd be a close game, but I thought there'd be a lot more scoring. But your thoughts on the O-line before we move on?
Oh yeah, and we have Iwasika that comes in there and starts at left guard, and we still were able to survive and do a lot of great things. Really pass blocked quite well for the most part. There was a little bit a few times where there's some breakdowns, but you and Justin alluded to it. I mean, when you have the kind of investment that the Detroit Lions have made over a course of time, we need to make sure that we're preserving that offensive line, because it is going to be that's the construct of the Detroit Lions offense, is to be able to buy time for receivers to run, delays and longer routes and get more length in their route stem, and allow Jared Goff to take shots and to throw it in the windows, and to be above and beyond all an absolute time of possession juggernaut and having a tremendous run game. And that's the way we are built, and that's the way we're going to be moving forward. So expect the offensive line to be preserved, and for there to be kind of a turnaround there, not a rebuild ever, because once we are rebuilding the offensive line, I think we're rebuilding once again. I don't think it's going to get to that. I think we're going to see some of that depth come to the forefront. And as you'll see, that we have to have that quality depth there, because it's going to play.
You are 100% right. And there's no doubt. I don't think any of us doubted this offense was going to be good this year. I don't know if anybody can truly say they think they would know it'd be this good. But we all thought, yeah, this is going to be the strength of the team. We were hopeful that the defense was going to keep on the trajectory they were going out in the second half of last year, because the first half of last year, let's face it, they were really, really bad. Guys, this defense is unbelievable right now. When you take a look at the graphic on the screen, the Lions have held opponents to under 100 rushing yards in each of their first 6 games. They have not done that since the early 1930s. And for those historians out there, that's even before the Three Stooges were called the Three Stooges. Okay? And, I mean, that's a long time, guys. I mean, that's over 90 seasons. And they are in season 90. So it's like the inception of the franchise when they were pulling this off, right? I'm so pleasantly surprised. And Coach, I'll start with you. They got it done, and Hutch was pretty quiet. I mean, he did his thing, no doubt. But I'm sure Tampa's paid a lot of extra attention to him. But other guys stepped up and got the job done. Talk about the defense.
Well, yeah, and they were trying to run the football too, right? And when you're seeing Hutch is not going to have big numbers, and neither are much of our defensive ends going to have big numbers against the run. They're going to make plays over tackles. I think we've talked about that before, where they will frame and set edges and do all sorts of good things for the run defense, but they may not make a lot of tackles. We saw that with Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell. 16 tackles between the two of them. They were out there making sure White and whatever other running game was going to be stifled, because that was an outstanding offensive line that we saw with Tampa Bay as well. Mm-hmm. Really the strength of their offense, and they have some big play weapons there. But really the offensive line, their offensive line, that's the kind of the cultivation of their offense too, is this or the makeup of their composition of their offensive line is this cultivated. The composition of their offense is this cultivated offensive line. And we were able to set the tone with a run against that. So, I mean, right you are, Drew. This run defense is remarkable for the Lions.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, Coach. And Justin, let's talk about that pass defense too. Will Harris, I'll be honest, I thought last year he was in jeopardy, maybe not even making the team. And here we are. We talk about him a lot this year, and he stepped up big time again. He had the interception on the Bugs tip, which was a great play by Bugs, by the way, on that tip, because Mike Evans was very open in the back end, and that was a good. But that's what happens when you're a good team and you make plays. Things like that'll happen. How often we saw it? The Lions are always victims, right? A bad call, an egregious call. Let's not call them bad, egregious call, or one play, and it changed the complexion of the game. And it's nice to see plays go to the Lions' way like that. But talk about the pass defense, if you will, please.
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out, and unsung hero, I believe, of the secondary is Cam Sutton, our signing from the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he only gave up 8 yards on Sunday, and he was covering both Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I mean, are you kidding me? Two of the, I would say top 10 receivers in the league. And the guy that's why you're not hearing his name, because he's doing his job. You kind of forget about him, and, the Will Harris, Jerry Jacobs, Tracy Walker with a huge hit on Chris Godwin late in the game. I mean, Kirby Joseph doing his thing. I just can't say enough about Cam Sutton. I love this guy, and he's doing all the things that you need to do so that the guys on the defensive front can get, to the quarterback and get to the running back and whatnot. And Jerry Jacobs, if you go back and roll the tape, his tackling, oh my gosh. I mean, it's incredible the way, he was doing tackling on Sunday. Just absolutely incredible. And Tracy Walker doing his thing, really happy to see him back after injury. You could tell he's just loving the game even more. And, he's really, like the quarterback of our defense back there, just making sure everyone's lined up properly and whatnot. And I just love the communication too. You see it all over the field, from the secondary, the linebackers, the defensive line, everyone's talking to each other. Anzalone's constantly looking behind him, making calls and whatnot. But yeah, this secondary, I think it starts and ends with Cam Sutton. We need him. He's our guy, and he does this thing. We have a very good chance of winning a football game.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was that stingy. I knew he had a good game, but yeah, that's awful stingy, especially with a couple Pro Bowlers. That's very good. And Coach Tracy Walker looked like the old Tracy Walker. It seemed he got that first hit, I think, on Godwin, and all of a sudden, man, he was laying some wood out there. Unbelievable. He was hitting. Can you imagine if Gardner Johnson was in this lineup right now? I mean, I know it is what it is, right? But I mean, oh my gosh, it just and hopefully he can come back. We're holding out hope, but overall, let's jump to the Baltimore game, guys, because it's so important. Now, this is a big game in the sense that you're playing another first place team. You're getting a lot of attention. But what I will say is this is a road game that's a non-conference game. And Coach, I'll start with you. Any psychological letdown in this game here, or is this team just so dialed in and focused that it does not matter?
Well, I don't think it's going to be a psychological letdown. To expect them to win every Sunday or Thursday or Monday, whatever, Saturday, whatever it is, that's we're going to get into that where I think we're into a time that we're not likely to see a lot of multiple consecutive Sunday or weekly losses by the Lions, but they're going to lose sometimes. Now, this is a real difficult chore. There was a time where we would really say this would have been an extremely difficult task. Would be to go into Baltimore, especially when Baltimore is in first place of the NFC or AFC North, and us win the game. Well, we beat the AFC team that's leading the AFC West. We knocked them out. We beat the team that was leading the NFC South. And when we played them, we were beating a team that we were tied with for the NFC North ourselves. So this is not our first rodeo this year in a game like this. And but what it is our first rodeo when it comes to playing Lamar Jackson, because that's not the same as Desmond Ritter or Baker Mayfield. It's a little different. Now, it's not Pat Mahomes either, but the one thing that kind of scares me, Geno Smith is a guy that we struggle with. And, Coach Glenn has done an amazing job of adapting the defense and getting so many different players to buy in conceptually to it. He's going to be a real hot commodity this kind of coaching shopping season. Real, just grounded, awesome human being too, and a sharp guy when it comes to calling this defense. He's going to have to be crafty. The one thing that he has shown a bit of a struggle with at times is kind of containing a quarterback run game. And if there's going to be a difficult week to do that, perhaps this week would be that. Lamar Jackson's been noted to be pretty good carrying the football himself. So, fans, you might be surprised. No, you won't. The guy's, really, really dynamic as a rushing quarterback. So, it does. It's a new chore. It's a new task. This is a championship caliber, fan base. They've won it all before. They know what it's like. They really rally behind, their black and purple. So, this is another tall task.
Yeah, Baltimore is very tough. And Justin, let's talk about the receiving core. They've got OBJ there now. Young Zay Flowers, the rookie. We liked him in the draft. He had a nice game last Sunday. And then Bateman's there. Mark Andrews is there. Your strategy to stopping this Baltimore offense?
Well, I think the biggest receiver that you're probably going to have to stop is Mark Andrews. Lamar Jackson, if you go back, a couple seasons and whatnot, that's a safety valve. He loves Mark Andrews. He liked him on Sunday in London against Tennessee Titans. I'll just go ahead and say I'm not really worried about OBJ, although he can make, explosive plays. He's not the same player that he was when, he was, with the New York Giants and even the LA Rams. But Zay Flowers, the rookie, you're going to have to watch out for. He's very explosive. He's very unpredictable. He can make you miss. And then, like you said, too, you have Rashad Bateman. But I think what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to limit Mark Andrews. Like I said, he's kind of like that safety valve for the first down. On 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 6s, you're going to see Lamar Jackson try to find Mark Andrews. He's a big target. And then Zay Flowers, especially in the red zone, you got to watch out for that guy. So if we can limit those two guys, Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers, we have a pretty good chance of, winning this football game. But like Coach said, it's going to be tough because Lamar Jackson's not only the passing leader, of course, he's also the rushing leader on the team as well. So they kind of have a running back by committee right now since J.K. Dobbins went down and he's out. So Lamar kind of takes the bulk of the carries too. It's crazy, but he can do it. He's that elite level of an athlete, NFL quarterback, caliber. So like Coach said, again, it's going to be different. We've kind of struggled with kind of quarterbacks that can scramble, but Lamar's not your typical guy, quarterback that can scramble. He's very unpredictable in the sense that he can start at one side of the field, end up on the other side of the field, or he acts like he's going to pass and then he takes off running. They run a lot of that RPO stuff. So I think if you take away the main guy, though, Andrews, that's like his centerpiece. You take him away, you're going to make Sunday afternoon very tough for Lamar Jackson and company.
Yeah, you're right about that, 100%. I think what's interesting is for the first time in a long time, the Lions have linebackers that can not easily, but they can hang with tight ends. They've got guys like Jack Campbell who not only have the size but the speed to cover a tight end. So it's going to be very interesting if the rookies matched up with him. Now, Coach, I want to talk to you first next because there's a Harbaugh on the sidelines here. It's John Harbaugh. It's a pretty good coach. He's got a ring. He's been there a long time. He's been doing it for a long time. He does it well. If you're John Harbaugh and you're looking at this Lions team, how are you going to attack them?
You're born from the cradle of coaches of Miami University in Ohio, in Oxford, Ohio. John Harbaugh, son of Jack, older brother of Coach Jim. And yeah, they to me, I really consider that his organization, especially with him leading it and the way they've done it, kind of the modern cradle of coaches. I think it's a coaching factory. They're just outstanding at what they do, and that's what makes it the toughest, I think, even more than just having a dynamic opponent like Lamar Jackson and a really good offensive line that Baltimore has, and the stingy, physical, difficult defense that they play. Aside from all of that, is the remarkable coaching. He knows exactly what he wants to do. He is going to have a game plan for Ben Johnson. He is going to have a game plan for Aaron Glenn. He is going to try to, dissect the brain and really get a bird's eye view of how Dan Campbell thinks and ticks, and find a way to create to create a game plan against that, and he'll do it very, very well. It's going to be very, very close. What does he see? Well, he sees an offense that he just wants to keep off the field. If he has his guy on the field more than the Detroit Lions, they win, pure, plain, and simple. And that's vice versa. That's also going to be the Lions' main objective, is to keep their offense on the field much longer than that of the Baltimore Ravens. If we can do that, then we have a shot. We definitely have a shot to win this game. And I would suspect that we'd be leading at least at times throughout the game if we have time of possession. If Baltimore wins time of possession, they're going to win and probably be by a couple scores. So, that's going to be what John Harbaugh is going to try to establish, as is Dan Campbell.
Yeah, no, great points. And my 2 cents or 1.5 cents worth, I think keeping Jackson in the pocket and make him beat you in the air, because he can beat you on with his feet. If he can run, it's bad news. With all the weapons you talked about, Justin, with Flowers and Beckham and Bateman and Andrews especially, I personally have confidence in the secondary and this linebacking core that I'm gonna roll those dice. I'm gonna say, no, we're gonna take that challenge, but you will not run that football. They want to put 7 straight weeks of under 100 yards rushing. Good luck against Baltimore. If you can do that, salute. Wow, impressive. I just think, and then what I really like, I'm going to flip the script for myself here. Offensively, we know Baltimore's got a great defense. Guess what? Detroit's got a great offense. If I'm the Detroit Lions, I'm going to do what we do. You stop us. You worry about us. You scheme against us. We're going to do what we do. And it seems to be the attitude they've kind of taken this year. You want to stop the run? Okay, no problem. Jared Goff, light him up for 350. Oh, you want to stop Jared Goff? Okay, let's ground and pound. Might be a little more difficult without David Montgomery, but hopefully getting Gibbs back, and it sounds pretty promising. Coach Campbell definitely in his press conference yesterday was saying he looked real good. So that's good to hear. If they can get Jonah Jackson back, that's a bonus, but I'm not sure. I haven't heard any updates on him yet. I don't know about Brian Branch. It sounded like he was moving around a little better too. That would be a huge bonus to get Brian Branch back. But guys, let's talk about what we think is going to happen in this Ravens game. I'll kick it off. I thought close game against Tampa, but I thought there'd be more offense. So now I'm going to go conservative. It's probably going to be 40-37, but I'm going to say 2017. I can't pick against these Lions. I think the Detroit Lions are going to win this football game 20-17. If they can do what you guys articulated, control the clock, no mistakes, make Jackson beat you in the air, good chance they win this game. It's going to be a close game, though, a well-played game. 2 very, very good football teams that are coached up. Coach, how do you see this?
3 field goals to 2 for Riley Patterson. I think we're going to score 2 touchdowns each. I think we both are going to get 14 points. Whether the offense scores them both or whatever the case may be, they're both going to try to really manage the clock. And it's going to be who gets in field position nice. And I think, yes, we're 4th down conversions. Could that lead to an extra touchdown? It could, because I think the Lions are going to go for it on 4th down at times in this game coming up to try to extend drives. And what that's going to do is give the Lions one more field goal than Justin Tucker is able to hit. And the Detroit Lions are going to win 23-20.
Yeah, I like that. Let's keep him at least 60 yards away. Because if you
I need to be more like 75.
There you go.
75.
Yeah, because he can hit past 60 too. So, oh my gosh, that guy's awesome. He's a great kicker. Justin, your thoughts on this one?
Well, there's no secret they are stingy. The Baltimore Ravens defense, they're only giving up 15 points, a little over 15 points a game. I watched a little bit of that, Tennessee Titans matchup that they had. You know what? Ryan Tannehill was getting some time to throw that football. He was just, for some reason, off with D-Hop and his other receivers. I don't think that'll be the case with Goff. I think if you give him time, he will be able to find some of these crossing patterns and Khalif Raymond and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I'm going to go ahead and say they're going to get it done again, 23-13 Lions. I just think the offense with Jameson still coming along too, with his speed and whatnot. We give them multi-dimensional looks, and that's what you want. And I think we'll be able to clamp down on Lamar. If Hutch and the guys on the end are going to have to watch their containment and bottle him up, and I think we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I like it, guys. Let's hope we go 6-1 after Sunday. Hey, folks, subscribe to the channel, like the video. We're going to have Chalk Talk. We'll be in the SPP film room this week. Be breaking down some more of those Tampa plays that we talked about, and I know Coach is ready for that. There's a couple key plays that are going to be fun to talk about. The Reynolds block, just to talk about it, is always fun. Really looking at what Williams was able to do, and even the play that Williams had the drop on. Pretty impressive route that he ran on that play. I saw it earlier, and oh my goodness, I mean, just the break on his route. It's crazy how fast he can stop on the dime. He's an impressive athlete. But always excited to talk about the Lions. But man, this year, guys, has been a lot of fun. You guys are doing a great job. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. Everybody, thank you for your support. We will talk to you soon. Go Lions. And this has been for Coach Andy Shield, Marine City Mariners, Justin Merriquin, Detroit's finest. I'm Drew. Thank you again for listening. We'll talk to you soon. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. To subscribe to the podcast, simply click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel's homepage and give us a like. You can also follow our audio podcast on multiple platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts, just to name a few. Give us a follow on Twitter. Our handle is @SportsPPodcast to check out our latest releases. Thank you again for watching and for your support. Remember, when you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.